I grew up clipping coupons. I grew up looking for deals. The one thing, oh gosh, what's the one thing? I think bookstores, you can find your story there. You can find some version of your story or what feels true to you in it. And within all those pages, it's just such a great space for discovery.
Bloomberg, it seems, truly believed Meghan Markle was their ideal guest. A high-profile figure connected to royalty with global fame, it seemed like a foolproof plan. They likely envisioned an elegant, intellectual dialogue that would captivate their finance-focused audience and inject a dose of celebrity glamour into their brand. Instead, they got something so woefully out of place that insiders are still shaking their heads in disbelief.
So most of it in the pre-production was inspired by recipes that I love to make, who I was entertaining, and then test it all out. Yeah, it's a lot. That version of me, who there might be a brand or a person that you look up to and you want to have a piece of what they're sharing in the world.
According to sources behind the scenes, the moment she entered the studio, it was clear a grave miscalculation had been made. From the very beginning, the atmosphere was lifeless. Meghan arrived with her characteristic poise, perfect posture, designer clothes, and that rehearsed smile. But as soon as she began to speak, the facade crumbled. It wasn't because of anything scandalous, she said. It was because she uttered nothing of substance at all. Viewers hoping for real insight or expertise were met with empty catchphrases and generic PR-friendly talking points. It felt less like a genuine interview and more like a staged appearance with no depth. For Bloomberg, this was a catastrophe. This is a network celebrated for its incisive reporting, intellectual rigor, and candid conversations. Meghan's segment was the antithesis of all that. One staffer reportedly put it plainly, "She brought the show down." This wasn't said with any bitterness, but with a profound sense of professional letdown. They had hoped for a compelling guest who could elevate the broadcast. Instead, Meghan's presence turned it into a clumsy, forgettable promotional piece. When you're Bloomberg, a platform that features CEOs, heads of state, and some of the world's most brilliant minds, that kind of failure doesn't just hurt, it damages the entire brand. Behind the cameras, people were whispering their concerns before the interview even wrapped. The vibe in the control room was tense. Instead of approving nods or hushed praise, there were furrowed brows and quiet headshakes. One insider called it a misfire from start to finish. Meghan didn't bring sparkle or charm, the source said. She brought a burden, not a good kind. It was the weight of pre-scripted answers, practiced expressions, and shallow sound bites. There was no authentic emotion, no true sincerity, just the same worn-out routine that is growing tiresome. The Bloomberg team wasn't alone in their observations. The public was just as quick to voice its opinion. Social media was flooded with comments of confusion and apathy. "Why was she even on?" one viewer tweeted. Another compared the interview to a beauty pageant contestant, giving uninspired answers to complex questions. When your audience walks away describing your star guest as uninteresting and robotic, that's not just a small problem, it's a major red flag. Bloomberg also didn't see the ratings boost they had anticipated. The numbers, it seems, were underwhelming. For a platform that measures success and impact in data, this was a financial and reputational fumble. They gambled on Meghan attracting attention and driving advertising, but when the dust settled, she hadn't made an impact. If anything, she might have pushed things in the wrong direction. What made the whole debacle worse was the stark contrast. Bloomberg has hosted guests who command genuine respect. When they speak, people listen. They challenge ideas and offer bold perspectives. Meghan did none of that. She stuck to the tired narrative about being misunderstood, hinting at vague injustices, and wrapping it all in the same Hollywood sheen we've seen countless times before. There was no energy, no genuine engagement, just another slick, hollow appearance selling a brand that fewer people seem willing to buy. And that's the core issue. The Meghan Markle brand is running on fumes. Even networks that once offered her the red carpet are now quietly backing away. When the focus shifts from valuable content to damage control, the costs start to outweigh the benefits. Bloomberg learned this the hard way. It wasn't just her uninspired performance that turned people off. It was how disconnected Meghan seemed from everything Bloomberg stands for. This is a platform built on credibility, data, and hard analysis. When they bring someone on, there's an unspoken expectation that they will contribute something meaningful. Instead, Meghan gave the impression of someone more interested in refining her public image than participating in a real discussion. The entire booking felt like it was for vanity, not for substance. And that has serious consequences. Internally, producers started questioning the initial decision to bring her on. According to several staffers, concerns had been raised early on, but the booking was pushed through because of her star power. The assumption was that Meghan's name alone would be enough. But it turns out, a famous name without substance just doesn't cut it anymore, especially not in a demanding space like Bloomberg's. The irony is that Meghan clearly wanted the opposite. She came in expecting praise, perhaps even admiration, but what she got was polite professionalism followed by behind-the-scenes regret. Instead of captivating the room, she drained its energy. One staffer summed it up perfectly. She didn't just underwhelm, she made it all about herself. This is a pattern in Meghan's media appearances. A discussion becomes a monologue, and something meant to be informative ends up feeling like a promotion. This isn't the first time this cycle has played out. Just look at Spotify. That multi-million-dollar deal ended in a mess, with executives later publicly mocking her lack of originality. They felt cheated, and so did audiences. The same pattern repeats. Big fanfare, a polished debut, then silence, or worse, disappointment. Meghan seems to keep landing major opportunities, but increasingly, she leaves a mess in her wake. This is what Bloomberg is now struggling with. It's more than just one bad guest segment. It's a hit to their editorial judgment. When a network known for its sharp content books someone who performs this poorly, it sends a powerful message. Other outlets are watching. Executives at rival networks are whispering, and the conclusion many are drawing is simple. Meghan is no longer a safe bet. She is a risk. Part of the public's backlash came from how predictable the whole thing felt. Meghan leaned into her typical talking points: being misunderstood, being unfairly judged, trying to overcome negativity, but it felt like a rerun. Audiences have heard it all before, and this time, they weren't buying it. There was no urgency, no spark, no shift in her story. Just the same repackaged victimhood presented in designer clothes with a detached demeanor. To make matters worse, this wasn't even an interview focused on the royal family. Bloomberg didn't bring her on to discuss family drama or personal struggles. They expected a thoughtful voice who could offer insights on globally significant issues. Instead, what they got felt like a wasted opportunity. The entire segment became about Meghan, how she looked, how she answered questions, the aura she projected. The topic didn't matter. The conversation didn't matter. Only she did. This level of self-absorption might work on entertainment shows or late-night talk shows, but in serious media spaces, it backfires. People don't tune in for polished branding. They tune in for facts, clarity, and meaningful insights. Meghan delivered none of that. And the fallout wasn't just internal. Viewers were vocal. Social media roasted her performance. Memes circulated mocking how out of touch she seemed. The collective response wasn't anger, it was boredom. And in the world of media, that's far worse. What truly sealed the damage was the silence that followed. Bloomberg didn't release a statement, didn't defend the segment, and didn't attempt any sort of public relations recovery. That silence spoke louder than any press release ever could. Insiders began leaking details, confirming what the public had already suspected. The network saw the entire experience as a mistake, a reputational stain that highlighted a deeper problem. Meghan Markle is no longer adding value to the platforms she appears on. This moment didn't happen in a vacuum. It was one more incident in a growing list of networks left feeling underwhelmed after working with her. From Oprah to Spotify to Netflix, the pattern is hard to ignore. A major launch, huge expectations, a carefully crafted brand, followed by a slow unraveling that ends with audiences tuning out. It's no longer controversial, it's simply expected. And that's where the real danger lies. When a brand becomes synonymous with under-delivering, people stop watching and networks stop calling. The Bloomberg fallout stung even more because of how public it became. Media critics picked up on it. Analysts began dissecting it. Even rival platforms used it as a cautionary tale. Meghan didn't just lose credibility with one outlet. She lost credibility with an entire tier of the media. Bloomberg is not a gossip blog. It's a serious, globally respected institution. If they regret giving her a seat at the table, that sends a clear message across the industry. And then there's the financial aspect. These aren't charitable bookings. Networks invest in guests like Meghan expecting a return. A larger audience, stronger engagement, and more ad revenue. None of that happened. The buzz was non-existent. Clips from the interview barely made a dent online. Viewers didn't share it, and critics didn't praise it. The data was flat. In a media landscape driven by analytics, flat is failure. Behind the scenes, producers started evaluating not just the segment, but Meghan herself. One person close to the situation reportedly said, "We thought we were getting a cultural icon. What we got was a walking press release." That line perfectly captured the entire situation. Meghan didn't walk into Bloomberg ready to engage. She walked in ready to sell. And people saw right through it. The public's response added insult to injury. Social media users, many of whom had once supported Meghan during her early struggles with the royal family, now seemed fed up. The general sentiment wasn't hate, it was exhaustion. People were tired of the same act, the rehearsed vulnerability, the vague grievances, the contradictions, and the constant attempts to reframe her story in a more favorable light while avoiding accountability. At some point, that narrative just stops working. And now, the industry is adjusting. Behind closed doors, editorial boards are rethinking future invitations. Booking departments are weighing the risks. Is the Meghan Markle name still worth the gamble? Or is it just a guaranteed headache wrapped in declining relevance? For many, the answer is becoming clearer. Even within royal circles, the reaction has been one of quiet validation. Meghan's choices continue to distance her from any sense of royal dignity. Every platform she steps on becomes a personal stage. Not for service or dialogue, but for performance. She doesn't elevate the legacy she married into. She erodes it, one headline at a time. Bloomberg didn't just regret a bad interview. They regretted buying into a myth that no longer holds power. Meghan's shine has faded, and all that's left is a carefully packaged brand that fails to connect.